Hello and welcome on the Ravaged Blight Science. Today we're gonna talk about the double golden oil strategy, right? So this strategy was the most optimal strategy that I tested last league, and I believe it was because we had a very expensive divine orb, the Voidborn reliquary key was pretty expensive, and overall the economy was pretty matured at the point when I tested it. However, this league my tests are not definitive, and I believe there is not big difference between two golden oil strategy and single golden oil strategy, right? So today we're not going to answer which strategy is better because the difference is pretty minimal, and I believe the luck factor is, let's say, too big to conclude in a very simple way. So we would need a lot of data to actually say which one is better. But this is only when we look at the loot and profit per hour. And if we, let's say, assign different factors, right, like the amount of currency you need to flip, the amount of trades you need to do to get back your money, I think the conclusion is that the single golden oil strategy is pretty fine. Right, so there are a few nuances that I want you to know before we move on, right? So maybe let's talk about my runs of single golden oil strategy, right? So this was done pretty early in the league. The divine orb was around 188 chaos, although then the price went a little bit up, then it went a little bit down, and yeah, we are now here in a situation when divine orb is 220, while the golden oil is a little bit cheaper than 60, which was the case when I ran those strategies. So what we've got is usually around 3k, 3.5, or there was one super lucky run that peaked at 4300 chaos. So overall, this strategy produced us like 11 divines per hour. That includes the Strangle Gasp, which was 700 chaos back then. We dropped an item, and yeah, overall this was a good session, especially for a league start, right? Although, as you could see in my video, I never stated that this strategy will produce you like 11 divines on average. I stated it's more like 9 divines, which is a little bit less than the profit that comes from those sessions, right? So those are like extras. Of course, the Val Temple will be like normal drop, but you cannot really expect to drop Enlighten on or Strangle Gasp, right? So this is just this number with those little bit more expensive and rare drops, which will of course happen, but I think this will also happen regardless when you use one golden oil or two golden oils, right? So don't let those lucky drops blind us, right? And my conclusion about this strategy is that it's quite cheap. I mean, it's not cheap, right? Because it's still like 150 chaos, but it's cheaper than two golden oils. So you don't need to buy so much golden oils and turn chaos into oils just to turn the loot back into chaos, which is, I think, easier to do early on. And the conclusion about two golden oil strategy is that the difference in here is, let's say, quite minor, right? So a few words about my runs. I think that I was pretty unlucky, although we can see that on average we get more loot, right? That's right. So we get more loot, around 400 chaos, but this also comes with much higher cost, right? So we have over 10k chaos investment versus 7600 chaos, and I think this is the main reason why this strategy, let's say, is faulty, right? So if you get unlucky sessions like me, so yeah, this was the last session I ran because the first strategy I ran was in a different economy. I had to travel for work and had a break around a few days, and I decided I will rerun this for this video purpose. So this was my last session. I recorded it and uploaded it, and it was the weakest one. So I assume this is not what you should get on average. I believe this is the lower end, and I would expect something around 4K to be on average. So if we would turn this into 4K, we would get closer to 9 divines, right? So just looking at this, I'd say this is pretty lucky, and I have a proof for that. So I've run like 2 additional sessions. Like I said, the divine orb went down a bit, but this is again very unlucky session, and even though I dropped some divines, overall there was not enough loot in this one. So if I added those numbers as well, it's a little bit beneath 8 to this one, I'd say we would get something around the same amount of double golden oil. So I would say those strategies are pretty much similar, and I'm not able to say which produces how many loot more or less than the other. So my point is that you'd better run single golden oil unless you really hunt for those big items and you want, I don't know, to drop a doctor or some other rare divine card. Let's say have more chance to drop those rare cards. That would definitely drive the profit in a long term. So maybe if you run 100, 200, 300, 500 maps, then I'd say 2 golden oil would be better. But if we go further, if we would add like 3rd golden oil, I think increasing the cost further would not really increase your loot the same manner. So last league 3 golden oil did not work well. I believe now when we can see that even 2 golden oil does not really work much better than single golden oil, and what I believe the truth is somewhere between. So I would still run double golden oil for the sake of having a small and slightly better chance to drop those big drops. But on the short term, if you run like 50 maps, 100 maps, this will not be a big difference. So if you've been running like single golden oil up to this time, you haven't been missing out much. Your profits are probably somewhere around 8.5, 9 divines per hour with having, you know, with the fact that now divine is a bit more. So if the divine was like 180, right, this number would be bigger, but it's 220, right? So it's relatively different economy, but it is what it is. And I don't want to, let's say, bait people and say, okay, this is 10 divines plus, because it's not, right? When the divines are at this price, Voidborn keys are at this price, and the drop rates are like this is what you will get. And I think this is rather unlucky run, so I would still say it's 8.5 divine plus, but the single golden oil, because having much less cost, would be also similar, and 8.5 divine. So to people that are new, I might say a little bit about the strategy comparison, although this is not yet finished for now. I need to travel today, so I didn't have time to do it the right way, and I'm trying to improve every time. So this is the loot distribution, and the way how I try to compare my strategies is comparing the drop rates of top 20 items, which I believe account for nearly 80% of loot. So it's what you could know as Pareto rule, right? So 80% of loot comes from 20% of items, right? So we can see there are all the rest of the items is around 25%. So we can pretty simple ignore the drop rates of that. And my goal is to collect the data and do a little bit of analysis and see the drop rates and comparing the costs, right? So this is still to be changed, right? So this is wrong, but we need to calculate the costs based on cost of oils. So we have cost of ingredients in here. We can simulate prices, and then if I have enough data, and I believe I will have to engage other people to do and run the maps for me, but first maybe trying to standardize the ways like filters and how do we export stuff, how do we calculate stuff that, you know, Exilence next cannot count. And having a lot of data, we could maybe answer those little questions, whether it's better to run a single golden oil or double golden oil based on a different state of economy. So when the divine orb is 220, then simulate what happens when the divine is 250, what happens when the oils are up or down. And I believe that's possible only when we have a lot of data, right? So the big answer for now is that the golden oil strategy, like the golden oil, triple silver, double opal and triple teal, are like superior to other strategies like non-golden oil, non-teal oil strategies, right? And whether you should run like double golden oil or single golden oil, it's maybe for now just a matter of preference. If the economy shifts further to, you know, for the divines going more expensive, stack decks going more expensive, voidborn keys going more expensive, I believe we will slowly shift into double golden oil being, let's say, predictably better than single golden oil. For now, I think it's just a matter of luck. So like in my case, once again, I think this could be rather lucky set of 5 sessions versus this could be rather unlucky set of 5 runs. But it is what it is, and I think further tests are needed. But for now, I think you got the answer. The double golden oil is not really much better than single golden oil, and this is what you should take from this video. Further tests will focus on the corrupted maps, so we will see how corrupting maps works versus the standard strategies, and I will try to engage more people into tests to get more data, so we will have better, let's say, base for normalizing costs and seeing the drop rates. So that's definitely something to consider, and then comparing it with corrupted maps, and maybe corrupting those strategies will show bigger differences. I mean, maybe corrupting double golden oil is much better than corrupting single golden oil, right? So there are many questions still to be answered, but I believe for now this is it. Soon there will be like 10 map runs of my double golden oil strategy. What I managed to do is I managed to clear double golden oil in actually 60 minutes. So this is because I upgraded my build a bit, but for the, let's say, comparison reason and the fact that I recorded the worst session, so it had the least loot and, you know, it required me the least clicks, I assume that the average would be 65 for most of you, and this is the same as with single golden oil. So I believe that once we can, let's say, open chests with activating a spell or skill, the clear time got much better, and when we get like those armor nodes, etc., we no longer need to open them. So you basically just, I mean, open them manually, right? So with double golden oil, previously the clear time was a little bit slower because you have a lot of loot, right? And you need to do clicks. And also when you get like a lot of those armor chests, which, let's say, silver oil increases the amount of those chests, you also had to click and get nothing from it. But now you just skip that. So I believe with this change, we slightly reduced the difference in clear time between single golden oil and double golden oil, but still, I think that we could clear this in 60 as well, having my build power right now and the ability to open the chest, let's say, automatically. So yeah, I think this is it. Yeah, I will include POE of my current version of the build that can run those ravaged maps pretty easily in the description. And yeah, please subscribe and stay tuned for more videos on the topic. Thanks and have a nice weekend. Bye.